This is where we left in the previous video by configuring to use Google strategy. So let's go ahead and create the controllers to trigger these configurations. So let's get back to the users controller, which is this, and let me collapse these guys and this one also. So here is the logic for Google logging in. We are going to create two controllers. The first one is going to be Google Auth, and then next one is going to be Google Auth callback. Let me explain what these ones means. The purpose for this controller is that when a user click on sign up or sign in with Google, this controller is going to be called. And this controller is going to open a form for the user to accept the consent by entering his or her email. And from there, it's going to call this controller. And this controller is going to call or trigger the Google Auth to be able to get the user details in your application. Otherwise, it's going to create it. So let's create the controller for the Google Auth. So here as that, and then we are going to use passport.authenticate. And then first argument, we're going to use Google, and the second argument is going to be an object, and here specify the scope, and for the scope we need the profile of the user. If you want other properties about the user, you can specify that. So that is it for this controller to be able to get the form. So let's go ahead and create a route for it. So back to the user's route. It's supposed to be this one. And let's create one for that. And here I'm going to specify as auth/Google. And then here as .Google Auth. And the method is going to be get method. So it means that we can make the request from the browser. So I'm going to copy the base URL here and back to the browser, paste that, and the endpoint is going to be /auth/Google. So let me provide as auth and /Google and hit enter. As you can see, something is happening, but we got access blocked, authorization error. And this error means that we haven't set the callback URL in our application. Remember, as it stands right now, it is empty. We haven't done that. But this one is working. Nice. So let's continue with the callback URL, and that is it for the Google Auth. So here I'm going to name it as Google Auth callback. And you can name it whatever you want. And it's going to be async handler, and then pass in the async rec and response. And here we go. And inside, this is where we are going to use passport. So here as passport.authenticate. And inside, we're going to pass in a couple of arguments. The first one is the Google, and that is the strategy. The second one is going to be an object with this configuration. The first one is going to be failed redirect, which means that in case the user couldn't log in, we are going to redirect the user to login page. So it means that we have to set this login page. And here we're going to specify session, and we are going to say false because we are using JSON Web Token. So after this, let me bring it here as that. After the second argument of the object, we're going to specify a callback function as this. And remember, we have to call passport.authenticate immediately. Therefore, we are going to use iffy concept, and that is immediately invoked function. So this is where it begins. So here I'm going to call it as that, and then pass in rec response, and then the next, which means that as soon as this controller calls, this function is going to be called automatically. All right, so now inside the callback function, which is this, we have access to the actual user and some information about the user in case the login in or the registration was not successful. So here, let's check for the error. In case we have error, then we are going to return and then call next and then pass in the error, which means that we have to pass next here as the third argument. And next step is that in case we don't have the user, which means that the user couldn't log in, therefore we are going to redirect by returning this, and we will say res.redirect. And redirect, we want to display a component for the user. So here we have to specify a component on the client side, and we will go ahead and create one to display Google login error. For the meantime, it doesn't exist, but we will get there very soon. So let me copy this one, and back here for the redirect, paste that, and the endpoint is going to be Google login error. Then down here, we know that the user is being logged in by using the Google account. And this is where we are going to generate the token. And it's going to be as const token is equal to jwt.sign. The same way we did upon logging in using the local strategy. So here we're going to specify an object, provide an ID, and the ID can be found on the user._ID, and then the process, that's the key, process.env.jwt secret. We are going to specify when do we want to expire this token, and here we want to expire it within 3 days or after 3 days. And last step is that we have to set the token into the cookie as we did before, and it's going to be as res.cookie, and provide the variable as token and the value as token, and the second or third argument is going to be HTTP only, and here we will say true, and then secured. In development we will say false, but in production we have to use what is called true. And then same site as we did is going to be strict, and then specify the maximum age, and we're gonna say that 1 day as we did before. So here if you check inside the supposed to be here rather logging in, the same configuration, which is this one. Yeah, good. And after this we have to redirect the user to dashboard on the client side, and it's going to be as res.redirect, and then we're gonna specify the front end endpoint, and we are going to create that dashboard when we get there. So let's go ahead and then mount that one also over here, and here is going to be off/Google and then /callback. And let's use the right controller. Before we try out, let's see the flow one more time. We are going to use this route, and this route is going to help us to open the consent form where the user will enter his or her email, and then after successful logging in, Google will send us back the user through this callback function. So now we are going to kick in using this endpoint. So let me copy the base URL, which is this, and then back to the browser, I'm going to paste that, and that is /API version 1 and users, and we are going to use /off/Google. So now let's hit enter. and we got access blocked authorization error, and that is invalid request. Well, let's see the configuration one more time. The issue is this property. It's supposed to be lowercase b for callback, and that is it. So let's try out one more time, and the endpoint is this. And now let's see, and there we go. We see the name of our application, and here I can log in with any of these. So let me log in with iNovotech. All right, now it worked. Have you seen that the redirect is working? Let's see where we configured the redirect, and that is inside the controller. Upon logging in, as you can see, this is what it called. And if we check our database, we're going to see the user who has registered with the Google account. So let me refresh it and then click on that, and we have 6 documents. The last one is this, and as you can see, this is the Google account who has just registered, and this is a profile picture from Google. I'm going to copy this and then paste it here. And now let's see, as you can see, this is a logo for my Gmail account, which means that it is working.